Hello and welcome to the Midwife Sonography Examination webinar hosted by ARDMS staff. Please note that the webinar will be recorded and sent to you. If you would like to reference or share the webinar recording, it will also be available on ardms.org/MW. So at this time, I would like to introduce today's panel. First of all, I would like to introduce our special guest, Kristen Ostrom-Nimsevich. Also, ARDMS staff, Jessica Herkenroder, who's the Manager of Certification, Dr. Yu Meng, our Senior Psychometrician. I am Julia Lee, Director of Marketing and Communications, and Sarah Pelter, Director of Testing. So next we're going to talk about what you'll learn today. First we're going to start about the Midwife Sonography Certificate. Then we're going to cover examination resources. Kristen will discuss the point-of-care ultrasound for clinical decision-making and some of the ACNM educational resources and their offerings. We're also going to walk through the certification process. We're going to discuss the Midwife Sonography examination components, the scoring and evaluation process, and then conclude with the next steps and what you can do to apply beginning January 4th. The Midwife Sonography examination assesses the knowledge and skills in the areas of the female reproductive system, as well as the fetus in the first, second, and third trimesters of pregnancy. The Midwife Task Force carefully reviewed all eligibility requirements, documentation, and data. As a first step, we appointed a midwife task force that includes several midwives who use ultrasound, midwives who do not use ultrasound, a sonographer, and a maternal fetal medicine sonographer. You may be familiar with a few task force members, as many are leaders within the ACNM. The goal of this task force was to look at examination eligibility requirements and all other aspects of the assessment that may be barriers for midwives to achieve a sonography certification. To ensure that the midwife sonography certification is of the quality that is expected by both the midwife community and ARDMS, the task force carefully reviewed all available information and data, determined what further data is needed, conducted any follow-up, and then made informed decisions about necessary changes. We just want to give a special thanks to all of the task force members and participants. We also want to thank the ACNM leadership and staff. ARDMS looks forward to continuing to work closely and collaboratively with ACNM and vows to successfully deliver a high-quality midwife sonography assessment starting spring of 2017. As I mentioned earlier, the upcoming application dates for the Midwife Sonography examination are January 4th through March 7th, 2017. The administration of the written examination will begin April 4th through May 4th, 2017. For future dates, you may also reference some of our online resources, including our ARDMS Midwife website, which is ardms.org/MW. While there, you can review prerequisites, schedule the written examination, review and print practical examination forms, review the content outline, and sign up to receive future updates about the exam and application dates. The other online resource that we'd like you to encourage to visit and sign up for is ardms.org/myardms. By creating a profile, you can apply online and manage your application, upload your application documentation, check your application status, submit your practical examination form, manage your certification, upload your CMEs to the ARDMS CME Bank, and much more. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Kristen, who will discuss the point-of-care ultrasound for clinical decision-making and also share some of the ACNM educational resources. Kristen?
Thanks, Julia. Hi, my name is Kristen Ostrom-Nimcevich, and I am the chair of the American College of Nurse Midwives Ultrasound Education Task Force. I have been a nurse midwife for 20 years, and I have been credentialed to use ultrasound at various practice sites since the year 2000. I primarily use ultrasound for late second and third trimester patients, and occasionally I will use an abdominal transducer to locate an IUD. Many midwives use ultrasound, some infrequently. Nevertheless, it is an important tool to aid in clinical decision making. ACM has produced clinical statements and guidelines since the mid-1990s supporting the use of ultrasound by midwives to enhance practice. The latest statement was published in 2012. The Standards for Practice of Midwifery provide clear guidelines in Standard 8 on the steps for expansion of practice. There is a link to a toolkit on the ACM Ultrasound Education webpage providing all of the necessary documents and steps to accomplish this for ultrasound practice in midwifery. I will be referencing various resources on our ACM webpage, which is found on the website under the Professional Resources tab. So it's important to mention the ultrasound knowledge acquisition, image recognition, and obtaining images takes time. It's not possible to learn what you need to know and the associated skills in one course. It takes reading about the technology, reviewing images, and practicing with a transducer to really understand what you're looking for, identify what you're looking at, and adjust your equipment as necessary to find the best image, and know what to do with the information. We often interpret ultrasound, but it'll take us a while to learn how to actually get the images ourselves. That said, after studying, each midwife needs to partner with an OBGYN or other expert in sonography to take the time needed to achieve comfort and demonstrate basic competency with the ultrasound machine available in your facility. So ACM actually recorded a webinar on Thursday, December 15th, and that's going to be available on the ACM Ultrasound Education webpage. The title was Introducing Ultrasound into Your Practice, Why and How to Prepare. It was conducted by Thomas Chappell, nurse midwife, and one of our Ultrasound Education Task Force members, and Frank Meal of Pegasus Lectures. So that webinar will be available, and the links should be found either on the Pegasus website or on the ACM Ultrasound Education webpage. So another resource for you all. Speaking of resources, I just want to talk a little bit more about the Ultrasound Education Task Force. We have been working for the last couple of years on increasing access to education products for midwives. And on our webpage is a list of on-the-ground and virtual courses. ACM has partnered with Pegasus Lectures to provide midwifery-specific online education modules that are available 24/7 for the busy midwife who may not have time to get away and attend a conference. We're also working on clinical partnerships, but this is difficult because of liability issues, cost, distance, and competition for patients. The Simulation Task Force for ARDMS will announce approved simulators that are realistic and provide comprehensive metrics. Stay tuned, because simulation is one way that a midwife can accomplish 3 of the 8 required cases for the ARDMS certificate. We're also conducting a workshop at the annual meeting in Chicago, and Diana Dowdy, DNP, nurse midwife from Vanderbilt University, will present information on ultrasound and midwifery practice, paired with Frank Meal of Pegasus Lectures and myself. We will combine this didactic session with a hands-on session using live using live models. Last year, the workshop was only able to demonstrate use of the ultrasound, and we know that midwives are eager to scan. So we've set up sessions with experts so the learner can experience live scanning, rotating with 3 learners per station, watching, followed by using the transducer, and then reviewing the images that are obtained. We're also hoping to work with simulation vendors to familiarize midwives with the different options approved by ARDMS. So that's the end of my presentation. I'd like you to please know that you can contact me if you have any questions. We'll include my email on this final tape recording. And next is Jessica Herkenroder reviewing the application process.
Yes, hello. The Midwife Sonography certification process is comprised of the following 5 steps. The first is determining eligibility. The second is applying online and paying. The third is scheduling, preparing, taking, and passing the written examination. The fourth is taking and passing the practical examination. And the 5th step is maintaining certification. I'll now go through each of the different steps in detail. So step 1 is determine your eligibility. In order to be deemed eligible to take the midwife written assessment, you must hold an active certified midwife or certified nurse midwife certification. Both are offered by the American Midwifery Certification Board. You must also earn a minimum of 12 ARDMS accepted CMEs or ARDMS accepted education hours in OBGYN. Either have to be earned within 5 years of the application submission. The following documents will need to be uploaded to your MyARDMS account within 21 days after applying. Number 1, the certificates or other original documentation for a minimum of 12 credit hours of ARDMS accepted CMEs or ARDMS accepted education hours in OBGYN, again, earned within 5 years of application submission. And then also you'll need to submit or upload a copy of your current valid active CM or CNM certification. To document the 12 hours of education, we are looking for a certificate of completion or a letter from an appropriate school official verifying completion. The second step is to apply online and pay the application fee. Once you meet the requirements for eligibility, you'll apply at ardms.org/myardms. You'll be required to submit the $300 application fee at the time of application submission. Note that the documents listed on the previous slide must be received within 21 days after you apply. Step number 3 is to schedule, prepare, take, and pass the written examination. During this time, your application will be reviewed to ensure you have met the eligibility criteria, and if you do, you'll receive an examination confirmation letter, or an ECL. This will be emailed to you. The ECL will provide you with instructions to schedule your examination with Pearson VUE, which is our testing vendor. You should schedule as soon as you receive the letter to get the date and time preferred, as test center availability does fill. So, number 1, schedule the examination. 2, review the content outline at ardms.org/midwife. And 3, take the written assessment at a Pearson VUE testing center. Please note that the examination is 2 hours in length with 100 questions. Scores will be released approximately 60 days following the close of the administration. Your scores will be posted to your MyARDMS account, and we'll send you an email to let you know when they're available. The 4th step is to take and pass the practical examination. This must be done within 2 years of passing the written exam. If you take the practical assessment more than 6 months after passing the written examination, you're also required to submit 5 new ARDMS accepted CMEs or ARDMS accepted education hours in OBGYN ultrasound. In order to pass the practical examination, you must submit documents demonstrating successful performance or completion of 8 cases across defined domains through direct observational assessments, or submit documentation demonstrating successful performance or completion of 8 cases across defined domains through a combination of direct observational assessment and simulation. Note that only 3 of the 8 cases can be through simulation. The 5th and final step is maintenance of certification. Once you pass the written and the practical assessments within the 2-year time period, you'll be awarded your Midwife Sonography certificate. Your Midwife Sonography certificate will be valid for 5 years from the award date. Maintenance of certification improves patient care by ensuring continuous lifelong learning and professional development throughout your career. Note that we are still developing our maintenance of certification program for the Midwife Sonography certificate. However, the currently known components are submit an annual renewal fee of $50 US, and in doing so, certificates are attesting that they are in full compliance with all ARDMS compliance policies. Further details will be forthcoming and will be posted to the ARDMS Midwife Sonography examination page. At this time, I'd like to introduce Sarah Pelter. She'll be discussing the components of the written and practical examination in more detail.
Thank you, Jessica. As Jessica alluded to, there are 2 parts of the Midwife Sonography examination. Part 1 is the written exam, which is computer-based, and Part 2 is the practical exam. So in Part 1, the Midwife Sonography computer-based examination will be administered at Pearson VIEW testing centers during 2 month-long windows a year. The exam content outline can be found on our website. This is a detailed explanation of what concepts will be tested and what proportion of the exam will be dedicated to each of these concepts. The exam development process, everything from developing the content outline to writing and reviewing the exam questions, was completed following best practices and using volunteer subject matter experts. The exam will be 100 questions, and the candidates will have about 2 hours to complete the exam. Scores will be available approximately 60 days following the close of the administration via My ARDMS. Upon successful completion of the written exam, candidates will be eligible to complete the practical examination within 2 years from the date of receiving written examination results. If a candidate fails the written exam, they will have to retake the exam during the next window. Once a candidate successfully completes the written exam, they have 2 years to successfully complete the practical exam. The practical exam is completed by submitting documentation that demonstrates successful completion of specific cases. If you do not complete the practical examination within 6 months of the written examination, then you will have to obtain and submit 5 new ARDMS-approved CMEs, or education hours, in OB/GYN ultrasound. There are 2 options available to complete the practical examination. In order to successfully complete the practical examination in any option, the candidate must submit documentation of successfully completing all 8 cases via direct observation, live patient, or a combination of direct observation and up to 3 of the 8 cases via simulation. The simulator must be capable of realistically replicating a real live patient encounter. This will require the candidate getting a sonographer currently certified by ARDMS in the OB/GYN specialty, or a licensed physician practicing in the fields of obstetrics and gynecology or maternal fetal medicine to evaluate the scanning of these cases. The evaluator will complete a form that states that the candidate has met all criteria for each case. These forms and criteria can be found on our website. A complete list of everything that should be included in each case can be found on our website. The cases include 2 first trimester cases, 4 second or third trimester cases, and the candidate can choose 2 out of the 3 GYN cases. And next, to talk about scoring the exam, I'd like to introduce Dr. Yu Ming.
Thank you, Sarah. We will now talk about how we will score the midwife examination, both written and practical examinations. As mentioned previously, because this is a windowed exam, meaning it is only being offered during select times of the year, you will not receive your score at the time that you take the exam at the testing center. Part 1 written exam is reported as pass or fail. In addition, your performance on this written examination will be reported as a skilled score, which ranges from 300 to 700. A skilled score of at least 555 is required to pass all ARDMS examinations, including midwife exam. Part 2 practical examination can be taken once you pass the written examination. The candidate will be notified whether or not the documentation they submitted is complete or incomplete. Proof of successful completion of the simulated encounter can be documented by having the simulated scan signed off by an evaluator or by a simulation center director or manager who's authorized and trained to verify proficiency with OBGYN simulators. The evaluator of the practical exam must be an ARDMS registered sonographer with OBGYN credentials and/or a physician with OBGYN and ultrasound expertise. The documentation submitted for the practical examination shall be reviewed by ARDMS application specialists. The computer-based written examination results and a full score report will be posted to My ARDMS about 2 months after the close of the examination window. An email will be sent notifying candidates when score results are posted and available. Candidates receiving a passing score on all required examinations and meeting all other requirements will be awarded the Midwife Sonography certificate. This is all about scoring and evaluation for midwife exam. Julia is going to introduce our next steps.
Thank you. So as the next steps, we do encourage you to apply for the Midwife Sonography examination starting January 4th, 2017. We also encourage you to review the ACMs exam prep webinar that will be available, that was recorded last Thursday and will be available on the ACM website. We encourage you to visit and bookmark ardms.org/MW, where you can sign up to receive updates and alerts for future application and administration dates. We also encourage you to visit ACM's website, midwife.org, for information and resources and educational resources. Also watch for updates about the ARDMS Midwife Sonography Assessment Program and corresponding education resources via the Quickening and Quick E-News from ACM. So we want to thank all the participants in this webinar. And this webinar, just as a reminder, is being recorded and will be available on our website. For any questions, we do want to encourage you to contact our customer care department via email or by calling the number on the slide. Thank you.